Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SCORE New Jersey statewide webinar. We have a fabulous speaker. The Monmouth chapter is hosting today, and we're going to go over the hour. We have allocated an hour and a half, so we'll have plenty of time for you to ask your questions of Luigi. He's a famous international speaker. We went outside the states to find him. Maureen actually found him. Maureen is one of our superstar certified mentors around the state. And we'll talk a little bit about SCORE once we get started. I'm Suzanne Stingo. I support the 7 chapters within New Jersey on the marketing side. So I'm the moderator typically of these statewide webinars, and we're very pleased to have Luigi with us today. So we're going to give everybody a few minutes. We opened it up a little bit early because we had so many people that registered today that we really wanted to make sure everybody had a chance. We're going to use the chat room, not the Q&A, for you to introduce yourself if you'd like to, tell us who you are, and to also ask questions and comments. And Luigi has asked that we wait till the end of his presentation to ask all the questions and comments. So we'll really open the floor at that point, but through the chat room. So thank you very much. If you want to also, when we bring up the slides, we'll talk a little bit about SCORE, and then we'll let Luigi take over. If you haven't been on Zoom before, you actually can reduce the pictures of the videos and who you're seeing, so it doesn't impact the screen of the presentation. On the top of the little black section where the videos are, there's a little line, there's a little box, and then there's 2 boxes. If you press the little line, you actually will reduce the videos, so you can see your whole screen with the presentation. So we have a lot of people coming in, and hopefully there'll be a lot more. And someone has already gone in the chat room, and we've asked Luigi if you want to put in, make sure you put it to everyone when you make a comment in the chat room so that everyone knows that you're here. Thank you, Russell. Top-notch firearm services. Whoa. Wow. Paul, welcome, Paul. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Jane. Oh, our infamous Jane Jacobson from the Northeast chapter is on. So we'll talk a little bit about SCORE in the beginning. We'll give everybody a few minutes to really join the call. We had a lot of people registered today. I'm sure Luigi is the big draw. So, besides Maureen. Maureen also was a big draw. Maureen is one of our certified mentors from the Monmouth chapter, and the Monmouth chapter is hosting. She's quite a character, but she apparently does a lot of good work. So
apparently, that's the rumor out there.
I can relate to being a character, so.
Now, I've been a SCORE mentor for about 11 years, so that's what I do.
All right. Hi, Jim. Jim Spiro, another wonderful mentor and volunteer for SCORE. SCORE in New Jersey alone has over 400 mentors and volunteers. And across the country, we have over 10,000. So we have a lot of people. We're going to wait just one more minute for people to join us, and we'll get started. And the beginning is we're just talking about SCORE and a little bit about SCORE New Jersey and the other webinars. We have monthly webinars that are statewide, and each of the chapters also have their own webinars, and some of them have gone back to doing in-person seminars already. So you can always go to our groups. I'm going to put that in the chat room, the links to our SCORE NJ groups on Facebook and LinkedIn. They'll be in the slides also. Please join them because you'll see the webinars that we're doing on a statewide basis and other information. Like today, there's a whole bunch. There was a wonderful article that SCORE did about women business owners and all the grants available to them. And grants you don't have to pay back the grants. They're not like loans. So I posted that article that gave you all the links to the grants that were listed in that article. So SCORE has tremendous resources over and above the fabulous mentors They have templates. You can go to score.org, get templates, get resources, get recorded webinars. We are recording this webinar today. So hopefully it will go on the website or on our Facebook and LinkedIn pages or somewhere, and you'll be able to look at it again. But thank you for joining us. And it's 2 minutes after, so I'm going to start the SCORE part of the presentation and share my screen. Let's see. Okay. So let me do the slideshow. Come on. Multiple clicks here. So welcome everyone. This is the SCORE New Jersey statewide webinar hosted by the fabulous Monmouth chapter in New Jersey. And my name is Suzanne Stingo. I actually work for SCORE New Jersey, and I support the marketing efforts of the 7 chapters within New Jersey. And again, we're hosted by the Monmouth chapter, the 7 chapters of the Northeast, the Northwest, Metro, Central Jersey, Princeton, Monmouth, and the Southeast. Each of them have a group of mentors. Each of them have local webinars and seminars. Some of them have gone back to in-person. Some of them are still catching up. Okay, our speaker on the call today is the famous Luigi, a tech enthusiast, a training professional, and a YouTube content creator. On the slides that we will send you all, everyone will get a copy of the slides. You will get his full contact information. And if you need to contact him, it will be there. And so you'll learn, he'll talk a little bit about himself. And SCORE is a nonprofit organization that's funded through Congress, and it is made up of experienced business leaders and business owners that are willing to give of their time free of charge. And so all the mentoring is done for free. It's all on a volunteer basis. And one of them is more brilliant than the other. And Maureen happens to be one of them. So we're fortunate enough to have Maureen on our call today. What we've done is we have Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups that we've put here. And I'm going to copy this if I can. I'll probably not right now. And put this in the chat room because we're asking you to join these groups because you will see on a regular basis the webinars and seminars that are going on around New Jersey and get general information about what's happening within SCORE and some helpful hints. Like I started to say originally in the beginning, is I just posted today an article about SCORE that SCORE did about grants that are available to women business owners. And we also had a pitch contest this year where we gave away 2 $4,000 grants, just the SCORE New Jersey organization itself. We always want you to go to a mentor. They can help you find things. They can help you with specific industry. You go to score.org/find-mentor to find a mentor. I already said it's a nonprofit. Score.org is the master website. And then all of the chapters, it's score.org/ and then the name of the chapter. Find a mentor. You can find a mentor by zip code if you want someone locally, because you still have the option of meeting in person. You can find it by industry or by specialty. So for instance, if you're looking for someone who has marketing expertise like Maureen does, or you're looking for somebody that has hospitality expertise, you can actually look for that. You can look at the bios of the mentors online. So you can start at score.org, or you can start at one of the chapter websites. There's over 400 mentors in New Jersey. We'd love for you to work with our mentors in New Jersey, but we can actually build a team of mentors for you and help you get the resources that you need that are available around the country. So you're not really restricted to anyone. Any of our New Jersey mentors are willing to help anyone that's anywhere around the state. And these are the chapter websites. It's score.org/ the name of the chapter. Very easy to find. We have statewide webinars on a regular basis. Sometimes we have 2, sometimes we have 3, in addition to the local excuse me, local webinars. Today we have the introduction to ChatGPT with Luigi. Next week we have a fabulous attorney who specializes in small business owners, and they're going to, he's going to go over the best way to create contracts for your small business. I know I'm a small business owner, and that was one of the hard things I found when I started my business. Contracts with your clients, contracts with your vendors, and what to put in and what not to put in, what to remember to put in. So we have that. September 7th, we're going to have one of our Circle of Mentors calls. We'll have 5 or 6 mentors on the call. You'll get to meet them. They'll introduce themselves, tell you about their specialties, and we'll have a 15-minute speaker that we haven't figured out who's going to be on the call. And then September 14th, we're going to have a hands-on LinkedIn workshop. Of course, social media is my specialty, and I'm going to do a LinkedIn workshop. I haven't done one in a long time, and everybody's always asking for one. And then we'll, as time goes on, we'll fill in the October and any other September ones we have. So visit the Jersey chapter websites for all locally organized news and webinars. And I think I'm going to stop sharing. And Maureen, who is one of our certified mentors from Monmouth chapter, if you want to say anything about your chapter.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, as Suzanne said, Monmouth chapter, we have about 40 mentors there. I'm one of them. I've been a SCORE mentor, believe it or not, for 11 years. And I was either going to do SCORE or do something with dogs. And I got told, oh, we're going to end up with 8 senior dogs. So do something with business. So I volunteer my time for the past 11 years. And right now I have about 75 clients, and 60% of them are from outside of New Jersey. So I take clients wherever they are. And as Suzanne said, you can go look at the profiles and find someone that really is a fit for what you need for your business. There's a lot of us out there with a lot of different skill sets. So my skill sets are really marketing, social media, websites, sales, pricing for product, all that kind of stuff. So that's my jam. So if you need help, all you have to do is reach out. The main SCORE website is score.org. If you want to come to lovely Monmouth County, it's SCORE, Monmouth County, New Jersey. You come find
it's score.org/just Monmouth.
Yeah. But you can go anywhere. You can go to the main website, or you can come to Monmouth. You go where you want to get the help.
And actually, all the resources are available on every website.
Yeah.
Because actually, the website, the SCORE website, is actually in the background supporting all the chapters.
And before we lead into Luigi, just to say, I saw him on a webinar on another platform, meetup.com, on April 20th, and I was blown away. I thought, wow, I thought I knew a lot about ChatGPT. Apparently not. And I found that I just really enjoyed his presentational skills and his content. Because a lot of times with presenters, you can have somebody with great content, but they're not a great presenter. Or someone's a wonderful presenter, very animated, but they don't have anything to share. So I reached out to Luigi on LinkedIn and said, SCORE would love to have you do something for us. And he has graciously said yes. So I'm pretty happy about that. So that's it for me.
So thank you again, Luigi. And without further ado, we're going to let him take over, share your screen, maybe introduce yourself, tell people about yourself and what you do. And he will actually have his contact information in the slides. And someone is asking me to enable the chat so we can do it. I'm trying to figure out how to do that so you can copy it.
All right, well, I'll get started.
Yes.
Just wanted to thank Suzanne and Maureen. Thank you, Maureen, as well, for those comments. No pressure now. Well, welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to attend. I'll just quickly introduce myself. So my name's Luigi Jacobellis. You guys can call me Louie for short. In terms of my background, I am a tech enthusiast, and I started a YouTube channel that is dedicated to sharing information about software, how to be more effective and efficient in your day-to-day leveraging technology. In terms of my work experience, I've been in industry, IT industry on the consulting side, working for organizations for over a decade, also a small business owner. So I'm hopeful that I'm going to bring some examples of how you can leverage artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, to help you be more productive, in your day-to-day and managing your business. In terms of my goal for today's session, I just want to ensure that you walk away learning at least one new thing. So if there's, you can try to take away one thing from this, then we can kind of call that a success. Now I'll just change slides here. So in terms of the agenda, it's pretty straightforward. This is an introductory session to ChatGPT, and today's session is really just going to talk about what is it, how does it work at a high level, why is it different than other AI-based solutions that exist in the marketplace. We'll talk a little bit about limitations, and then we're just going to dive right in. Now, today's session is really introductory. Okay, so this is really just high level. Here's the platform, here's how it works, and then we're just going to look at several different ways that you can actually use this to be more productive. So this isn't going to be overly technical. We're not going to cover every possible use case of ChatGPT, but I've tried to kind of cherry pick some items that might be really important or prevalent for small business owners. Now, this will just take a couple of minutes in terms of the background, again, just to kind of level set that baseline understanding. So what is ChatGPT? Well, it's essentially a computer program. Some people call it a chatbot that's designed to simulate human conversation in written form. Now, ChatGPT was developed by a company called OpenAI, and this app was published, or it was made available to the masses in November 2022. Now, super important note, it is free. So you don't have to pay anything to use this. So if anybody's trying to entice you or convince you that you do have to pay to use this, that's not the case. ChatGPT is one of many AI-based solutions that are available to the public for free. Now, that being said, there is a premium version of this tool available. I say premium because you do have to purchase a licensed subscription to use that. I'm going to be demonstrating the free version today. If you are interested in learning more about the premium version, which does provide some additional benefits, which I'm not really going to get into, I'll kind of show you where you can go when we open up ChatGPT if you're interested in doing that. And again, I'd suggest you kind of do a bit of a deep dive to understand what you would be getting if you decide to spend some money to buy the premium version. Now, if this is the first time you're ever seeing ChatGPT, super straightforward. How do I interact with it? Well, it's pretty simple. You navigate there, which we're going to see in a minute. You just put in a prompt or a query. A prompt is essentially some input, something that you're asking of it. It's going to actually do its thing, analyze the results, and then ultimately it's going to give you a response. So think of it as a sort of three-step process, and it's incredibly easy to use. Now, how does it work technically? I'm not going to get into the weeds on this because it's really complicated, and I'll just kind of throw out there, I'm not an artificial intelligence subject matter expert. I've done my research and my homework, but this is kind of the simplified version. So ChatGPT itself is essentially operating on what's called a language model, and the language model is, the name for that is Generative Pre-trained Transformer, thus the acronym GPT. And essentially what this means is that this model has been trained on large amounts of information coming from all kinds of sources, websites, journal articles, books, etc. Now, ChatGPT uses natural language processing to basically take an input. So whatever questions you're asking of it, whatever prompts, whatever input values you're providing, it's going to take that, analyze it against the large amount of information that has been trained on, and then it's going to provide a response that is contextually relevant. And that's kind of what's really important to understand about ChatGPT and what really sets it apart from some of the other AI-based solutions on the market. Now, its language model has been calibrated or fine-tuned through a process that's called reinforcement learning from human feedback. Now, essentially what that means is that this model was actually trained by humans. So humans would have conversations, fictitious conversations, they would transcribe that information and feed the output into this model. So that's what allows ChatGPT to provide responses that give the appearance that you're actually conversing with another person. And again, this is kind of what sets this model apart from some of the other AI-based models that are available in the marketplace today. Now, are there limitations? Absolutely. Some of these limitations, unfortunately, have made the news in various ways. And this is really important that you understand kind of the limitations of this app before you start to use it in various capacities. Now, the first and most important limitation of ChatGPT is that it was trained on data up to a specific point in time. And again, if you're using the free version to date, ChatGPT only has information up to September 2021. So that means if you're asking it a question about world events that took place after that timeline, it's not going to be able to respond with an accurate response because it doesn't have access to that information. Now, that's where the premium subscription comes in. If you decided to purchase a premium subscription to ChatGPT, you are gaining access to the latest model, which is GPT-4, and you're also gaining access to a model that is more up to date than the free version. So that's the big limitation right out of the gate. The second one, really important, is that ChatGPT has been known to provide responses that actually feature incorrect information. So one of the big caveats when you're using this is you always want to fact check, QA, quality assure, review the information that it's providing for accuracy. There's been a number of unfortunate scenarios in the news where, legal practitioners have relied on it to bring forward legal arguments, and it was incorrect, and that had ramifications. So important note, fact check whatever it produces. Don't just take the output and then use it because there could be incorrect information. And then the last one is that there have been instances where ChatGPT has been found to provide biased responses. Okay, now this is something that, again, you want to be cognizant of. A really good example of this is you probably wouldn't want to use ChatGPT to screen resumes, for example, because it may not do a sufficient job to ensure that you're reviewing those resumes and that you're selecting candidates in an inclusive manner. So you want to make sure you consider that it can produce biased responses, and you want to try to account for that before you use its output. Now, you'll notice here, and as we see in a minute when I pull up ChatGPT, they call out the limitations right on the main page. So again, look at this, internalize it, and make sure that you kind of account for this stuff before you use ChatGPT any further. All right, so that kind of concludes the background session. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to share my screen, and we're going to get right into the Show Me the Good section. All right, so hopefully everybody can see my screen here, but I do have my web browser up, and we're going to start off by talking about general navigation. Really basic element of when you're using software is just kind of understanding where do I go to access different things. Now, before we get into general navigation, where do I go to actually access ChatGPT? Well, you can access ChatGPT by opening your web browser and navigating to openai.com. You are going to be required to create an account. I'm not going to walk through that process today. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Once you ultimately log in, you're going to land here on this screen. Now, this is the primary interface for which you interact or work with ChatGPT. Now, in terms of navigation, there are three kind of key components of ChatGPT. Now, the first is the sidebar, which is this section here on the left. This is where you can go to initiate new chats. This is where you can go to see all of the previous chats or prompts that you've put into ChatGPT. You can collapse this by clicking on this little sidebar button if you don't want it and you want to maximize your real estate. And if I want to click into a chat, I can just do so here. Now, the next section in the sidebar is your account and the settings. Now, I'll just quickly click on the three dots here, and you'll notice that you can log out, you can access settings, and then there's this new option called custom instructions, which I'll talk about in a second. Now, the next element of the interface is the send a message input field. So this is where you actually come to provide an input or ask a question. So I'm just going to go ahead and type some text. So I'm asking ChatGPT to type some text, and you can see here that it's responding. So again, that's how simple it is to actually engage or interact with this. Okay. Now, once you put in a prompt, you're going to notice that there's a couple of different elements that show up on the screen. Now, first and foremost, when I hover over this response, you can see here I have the option to copy this. So if you are trying to copy this text, you don't have to select it and then paste it. You can actually just click the little copy icon or clipboard icon, and you'll be able to do so. You'll also notice the thumbs up and thumbs down icon. This is part of the reinforcement learning process. So it is recommended when you're using ChatGPT that if it has done a sufficient job at giving you information that you're looking for, then you want to go ahead and check these buttons, because that's going to tell it that its response was good and it will help kind of improve the model. Now, before I move on, once you input a prompt, you'll also notice that you have the option to regenerate a response. So let's say you ask ChatGPT to do something and you're dissatisfied with the output. What you want to do is actually click on this button. Now I'll go ahead and click on this button, and you can see here that it is going to just basically take another shot at addressing my question. You're going to see here it's also asking for some additional feedback. And again, it's kind of encouraged that you provide this feedback. But once you've regenerated a response, you're actually going to see right next to the ChatGPT icon the number of responses that it's provided. So if I want to go back to a previous response, I can simply check these toggles, and I can now toggle between the original and the updated response. Perhaps there's some piece of that first response I want to pull out. So again, if you ask it to regenerate, you always have the option to kind of roll back and look at the original information. So that kind of wraps up the general navigation. But before I move on, OpenAI also recently added a couple capabilities to the free version of ChatGPT that are worthwhile to know about. Now I'll click on the settings icon here, and again, you'll notice this option that says custom instructions. Now, when you click on this, there's two kind of additional settings that you can configure. Now, the first one allows you to provide some baseline information to help inform the responses that ChatGPT provides you. So you'll notice that the text reads, "What would you like ChatGPT to know about you to provide better responses?" So the types of things you can input here: where you're based, so your physical location. This way, ChatGPT can provide you contextually relevant responses based on your location. If you live in America, if you live in Canada, the specific state, city, etc. You can incorporate where you work in terms of a company or industry. And again, if you're using it in that capacity, then it's going to tailor the responses to account for that. You can provide it information about hobbies or interests. So it will take this info and apply that to the responses that it's going to provide you with. The next option that you now have to configure is you can also kind of set the tone for the responses that ChatGPT provides. So you can describe whether you would like responses to be, really professional, or maybe you want it to be a little less formal and casual, whether you want responses to default to being long or short, etc. So you can simply type in your parameters here, and then you can click Save. And this will be defaulted for all new chats. So whatever you put in here, ChatGPT is going to take this information into account for the future. Okay, so a nice little feature to kind of, again, add that contextual relevance to the responses that it's providing. Now that kind of wraps up the basic navigation and controls. And for the balance of today's session, we're really just going to get into looking at several different ways that you can use this as a small business owner. I'll work through some examples, and then we'll kind of open it up for some discussion. Now, what can you use ChatGPT for? Well, the possibilities are truly endless, but one of the things that it's really good at is ideation. So if you've ever found yourself struggling to develop ideas, to brainstorm, that is one area where ChatGPT is a no-brainer. It can be incredibly helpful for small business owners. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to test this out. Now, for this session, the scenario that I'm going to be working from is, let's suppose we want to start a tutoring company. Okay, so we have this idea, we want to start a tutoring company, and we're going to kind of use ChatGPT to help us along the journey of starting a tutoring company. Well, maybe the first thing I want to do is I want to come up with a name for my tutoring company. Now you can see here, I've pasted in a prompt that says, I'm in the process of starting a tutoring service, develop 5 potential names for my tutoring service. I'm going to go ahead and click send. it's going to respond. And you can see here that it's done exactly what I've asked. It's come up with a list of names for my business. Now, this is where it's really, really important, a really important point that, if you take nothing away from today's session, this is probably the thing you should take away. What you put into ChatGPT in terms of the specificity is really paramount, okay? So when you're developing your prompts, basically, the more information, the more specificity that you include, the more details and context, the higher the quality of the output that ChatGPT is going to provide. Now, this response is sufficient. It's done exactly what I asked it to, but maybe we want something a little more specific, okay? In this case, what I've done is I've now put in a prompt that says, refine the list of names for my tutoring service based on 3 different things. First, the plan for this service is that it's going to be aimed at individuals in high school. Second, it's going to focus on STEM topics. And third, the name should include a pun. And you can notice that I didn't need to now re-specify I wanted to come up with a name for the service. All I've done is I've said, refine the list that you gave me in the last prompt. Now I'll go ahead and click send. And you can see here that ChatGPT added in context to satisfy those additional requirements. And it was also it was able to recall the response that it gave in the previous, in response to the previous prompt. Now that's another important tip. When you're working with ChatGPT, if you're going to be asking it questions that are related to the same topic, it's highly encouraged to contain all of your questions in the same chat. It wouldn't make sense for me in this example, this recent example, to spin up a new chat and ask it, because this is related directly to the previous prompt. So it will actually take the full conversation into account when it is building out responses to your questions, to your prompts. So another important tip, group your discussions with it in the same chat thread if the topic is the same. Okay, so that is one way that you can use ChatGPT, simple brainstorming or ideation. Now, another good use case, and probably the most prevalent use case for ChatGPT, is content creation. Okay, now small business owners, entrepreneurs can use ChatGPT to help kickstart pretty much the development of any kind of content. Anything you need to author, ChatGPT is the best place for you to go to help kickstart that creative process. Now, in keeping with the scenario, suppose we need assistance with developing our service offering. We want to launch this tutoring service, but we need to actually have a description of the services that we're going to offer. Well, we can definitely leverage ChatGPT to help. And to do that, I might ask it to develop an outline for the various services to be offered as part of my tutoring service. And then I've gone ahead and specified what that tutoring service is going to be offering or what its focus is. And I've asked it to provide the results in bullet form. So I'll go ahead and click send. And you can see here it is pretty fast. And again, this is kind of one of the differences between the free version and the premium version. The premium version authors content in in a faster, shorter time than what we just witnessed. So again, that might be a consideration when if you are considering exploring the premium version. But what we can see here now is I was able to leverage ChatGPT to come up with a name for my business. And I was also able to kickstart the development of my service offering, describing the specific services that I'm going to be launching. So in this case, it is suggesting that I offer subject-specific tutoring, comprehensive STEM support, test prep, hands-on support for projects, labs, workshops, etc. So in a couple clicks, I came up with a name and I was able to augment and develop a service offering. Now, again, keeping with the theme of content authoring, another good way that you can use ChatGPT is to help you with social media posts, website content, to help kind of kickstart that. So we're launching this company. Presumably, we want to set up a website. So maybe we need to start to build out some content or maybe even a site map to kind of guide us through that process of establishing our website. Well, what I'll do is I will ask ChatGPT to help me plan for building my website. So help me build a sitemap so that I can set up a website for this service. And I'm going to click enter. And again, I want to keep these in the same chat because they're all related. And you can see here that I no longer have to think through the process of setting up the structure for my website. It is proposing that my website have a home page with this information, an About Us page, a services page, subjects, testimonials, etc. So really, really useful for helping you kind of navigate through that journey of establishing, growing, and maturing your business, developing content, even brainstorming and planning for the various resources that you need to operate a business, such as a website. Now, the next example, in just keeping with the theme in this example of establishing our company, is we have our website, we have our name, we have an idea of what the service offerings will entail, but now maybe we need to include some product descriptions. So I'm going to ask it to generate product descriptions that I can actually include on the website as it's suggested. And I'm going to specifically show how we're going to ask it to refine the responses that it provides to this particular prompt. Now we can see here that what it's done is it's given me text-based description for the specific service offerings, and you'll actually remember that these service offerings are the same ones it referenced earlier. So again, just a reminder why you want to keep your chats kind of threaded, same topic, same chat, different topic, different chat. Now, what's missing from these service offerings? When we think of services, often they have things like duration, they have price, they have other information. So this is a good start, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to refine the next prompt, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT to iterate on this response and to update the descriptions that were previously generated to include the duration for a single occurrence of each service, the tutor to student ratio, and the outcomes that the customer can achieve. Now I'm going to go ahead and click send, and I can jump to the bottom here. And you'll see here in a second when this finishes that it's going to do exactly that. It's going to now take those responses it provided, and a subtle tweak to my prompt allowed it to re-engineer the responses to meet my specific requirements. Now you can see here in terms of STEM mentoring, so this description is engage in STEM mentoring sessions lasting 1 hour with a tutor to student ratio of 1:1. So it is doing exactly what I've asked it for. And this is just a reminder that the higher the quality the prompt, your input, the higher the quality the output. So you want to be incredibly specific, and you want to think about start broad and then kind of refine and narrow down your scope to maximize what it is going to provide you. Now, the next step, in this case, what am I missing? Well, I'm also missing pricing. So we have a good footprint now. We have a service offering. We have a good description of those services, but we haven't contemplated pricing. Well, let's see what ChatGPT can come up with. Again, same idea. It's going to continue iterating on the responses that it gave me previously. I didn't have to ask it to do that. And it now gave me pricing information based on the knowledge that it has through its comprehensive training of research as to what these can cost. And I can, again, start to ask it to kind of refine, add, remove, adjust as I need to. So really, really powerful tool if you know how to use it. And again, remember, quality of your prompts, the more specific, the better the output. Now, the last kind of piece that I'm going to show you with respect to content creation is super powerful tool for developing materials to help you promote your business. We've looked at how you can use this to help establish, mature, grow, conduct the operations of your business, but promoting our businesses is super important. Well, many people out there today are leveraging AI-based solutions such as ChatGPT to help create content to promote businesses, websites, etc. I personally use this to kind of help me plan out my tutorials, sometimes to generate the first draft of a script. So this is another good example of how you can leverage this tool. So you can see here that I've now asked it, write a 300-word blog post that seeks to promote the importance of excelling in STEM topics during high school. So I built a website. Now I need to get content on it so I can draw people to my website and keep them engaged. And I now am able to actually generate at least the first draft of content with a couple of keystrokes and a couple of clicks. And I can now use this and refine it as I need. Now, really important note for the folks that are interested in using this tool to generate content. A lot of search engines today are starting to catch on to the fact that people are trying to rely entirely on AI-based tech to help them develop content. They are building in ways to actually detect if content was written in its entirety by AI-based solutions. So if you are planning to do this, it is highly recommended that you do not just take the output of these tools and paste them or post them on your website, because that could actually hurt your website in terms of SEO, in terms of search rankings. So I personally never just take the output of these solutions and use it exactly as is. I take it, I refine it, I make it my own a little bit, and then I post that, because I don't want to be penalized for just trying to get by relying entirely on the content. So something else to consider if you are going to be using this in that for that use case. Now the next one, next use case, which in my opinion does not get anywhere as much attention as it should, but often, small businesses, companies operate in global environments, meaning sometimes they're authoring content or they have a requirement to author content in multiple languages. Well, hint, hint, that might be another good use case for ChatGPT. You can actually use ChatGPT to translate content from one language to another. You can actually even interact with it in a different language. I believe it supports 50 to 60 languages, and don't quote me on that because I didn't check the number of supported languages up to date. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to paste in a prompt that says translate the above blog post into Spanish, and I'm going to click enter. And you can see here that ChatGPT is able to fully translate content into another language. Now, I have tested this in different capacities, in a sort of organizational type setting where I've relied on this for translations. My own personal experience with this is that the output of translations from ChatGPT tend to be more contextually accurate than using search-based translation. So going to Google Translate and trying to translate content. So again, always recommended that you vet this. In this case, you would want to make sure that somebody who speaks Spanish reviews this for accuracy. But based on my own testing and testing of peers and colleagues, the quality of the translations coming from ChatGPT is more contextually relevant than just going to Google Translate and trying to punch in something there to translate. So really good use case as well to be able to take content and kind of move it into different languages. All right. Now, another good use case, again, sort of in the business context, and I think this kind of aligns nicely with the comment that Suzanne made about the next session, drafting contracts, drafting agreements. It isn't recommended that you rely on ChatGPT to draft legally binding documents, but there are some scenarios where, again, you can kickstart that process leveraging it. Now, I myself am a small business owner. I have products that I sell. And when I was sort of establishing my footprint to be able to sell products, one of the things that I needed to contemplate was developing something like a terms and conditions or a purchase agreement. So you can see here that I've pasted in a prompt that says, develop terms and conditions that customers must agree to when purchasing tutoring services. I'll just remove the for. I'm going to click enter. And what we can see here is that, again, this is a solid starting point for things like policies that you need to develop, that you may need to develop to operate your business, for things like terms and conditions, purchase agreements, so you can get that process started, and this way you're not starting from scratch. Now, again, the caveat is anything legally binding, always make sure you seek out legal assistance and that you're covering your bases there. Now, I'm going to kind of shift gears for a second. So up to this point, we've talked about what is ChatGPT, how does it work? We looked at general navigation. I kind of showed you some tips, and then we've really focused a bunch of scenarios around content creation, brainstorming, developing posts, developing business plans, product offerings. So that's kind of all under the umbrella of content creation. Well, ChatGPT can do more than just create content. It can actually also analyze data and information and summarize that for you in digestible ways. Okay. Now we're going to look at two different examples of how you can leverage ChatGPT to help you take a large amount of information and make sense of that to provide you with value-added insights. Okay. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to bring up a Word doc. I'm just going to make sure I'm sharing the full screen here. And I know the text is probably a little too hard to read, but it's okay. I'll kind of summarize what this covers. So what this Word doc contains is the transcript for a fictional interview that was conducted to gather insights from potential customers. So again, I'm launching my tutoring service. Before I actually launch, I'm going to go maybe do some market research, try to understand what are customers looking for from tutoring companies. And I have a transcript here that basically details the conversation between an interviewer and an individual. And there's three sort of sets of responses. So the responses provided by Sarah, provided by Alex, and provided by Emily. Now, to try to make sense of this, probably take me a bit of time, right? It's qualitative information, a lot of text, a lot of reading. I'm busy, I don't have time for that. So what I'm going to do is I've come up with this prompt that says, review the following interview transcript and generate a summary of the key findings and recommendations. And then I've gone on to provide that important context that ChatGPT needs to know. So note that this interview is conducted with potential customers of tutoring service, and the purpose of the interview was X, Y, and Z. So really important, be specific. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to paste in the full thing. So my prompt at the top and the actual transcript from that interview, I'm just pasting that in here. And I'm going to click send. In a minute, we're going to have a quick look to see what it came up with. Now, it's an important note, there is an input limit for your prompts. I believe it's up to 250 characters. And again, that's another example of what the premium version gets you, is you can provide longer input prompts as well. Now, we won't go through every single line here, but you can see the key findings and recommendations from this interview. It's come up with sort of key themes as identified by these headers here: importance of STEM education, targeted tutoring services. And if I come right down to the bottom, it's going to kind of summarize or paraphrase this in a little paragraph form. Now I'll go ahead and click regenerate. And it's really important to note that when you put in these prompts, ChatGPT will never provide you the same answer. So when I was preparing for this session, it gave me a nice bulleted summary. It called it executive summary. And you can see here, now it's kind of doing that. It's giving me just sort of key recommendations so that I can quickly drill down into the actionable insights from this. So something to keep in mind, it's never going to give you the same response. And you can use this to actually help you process a ton of information, qualitative information, etc. So that's an example of how you can use it to analyze information that's text-based. But you might be asking yourself, well, as small business owners, often we deal with numbers, we deal with data, and sometimes it's overwhelming, or sometimes you don't have the cycles to actually make sense of data. Well, no problem. That's another scenario that we can use ChatGPT to help us. So you can see here, and it's not ideal, it's not a nice little clean formatted table. But this is essentially a data table that is listing out sales data. So my tutoring service has blown up. I'm global. I'm operating in multiple states. I've got sales reps, and I've got a lot of sales happening around different categories. So science tutoring, math tutoring, computer tutoring, and then the unit cost and the quantity. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask ChatGPT to take this data, analyze it, and then show me any key trends or patterns. So I'm not even going to ask it for anything specific. I'm going to leave it a little bit open-ended. And let's see what it comes up with. So you can see here, I just pasted that in. The table itself doesn't need to be cleanly formatted. This is sufficient. And when I click send, we can see here that, again, within seconds, it was able to kind of parse through all of that quantitative data and actually make sense. and it hopefully is going to provide me kind of a summary of key actionable insight. And we can see here, again, it didn't do it in bullet form in this time, but in conclusion, the data highlights that the math tutoring consistently has the highest demand among the 3 subjects, while individual sales representatives show varying performance across days. Okay, it's also gone on to tell me what it thinks sales performance may be influenced by, popularity, strategies, etc. And it's given me kind of information about each specific element. So revenue generated, it's identified the most popular subject, which is math, average unit cost, etc. So I didn't actually have to ask it to do a whole lot beyond just analyze this table and show me some actionable insights. So another, just a reminder, not only can we use ChatGPT for content creation, but we can actually leverage it to help analyze information, both qualitative and quantitative. Now, this is where the premium feature, and again, I don't get commissions for plugging the premium feature, just all about education. So one of the cool things with the premium feature is it does give you the ability to upload attachments. So if I had a large Excel spreadsheet with a ton of data and I was looking for info or support analyzing that, I could literally just grab that file, drag it into the box, and then type in a prompt, and it will be able to access the content stored in that file and process that as well. And there are similar capabilities in some of your other Office applications, Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets, like built-in AI that kind of does the same thing. So definitely something to check out if that's a focal point for you and for your business. All right, so I'm going to be covering a couple more examples, and that's going to kind of wrap up the sort of the session in terms of the structured content. So we've talked about using ChatGPT to help you create content, to help analyze data, quantitative, qualitative. Now you can also use it for practical things to help you be more efficient. And this is one that I love showing because it's, for me, it's something that I often have to do in my day-to-day. You can use ChatGPT to help you code, to help you build things. Now we're not going to look at coding in this session per se, but what we are going to look at is how you can use it to help you manipulate information in spreadsheets. Okay, now if anyone's ever had to work with a spreadsheet, it's likely you've had to try to write a formula to help you do something, parse data. Maybe you picked it up, maybe you Googled it, but this is a fantastic use case where you can save a ton of time by just asking ChatGPT for some help. Now you can see here I've got a spreadsheet. It has an email address column, date of birth column, and a renewal date. And these 3 are populated. Well, let's say I've generated a mailing list for my website and I only collected email, and let's just assume hypothetically everybody's email was just their name. Well, what if I want to extract or parse their name from their email so that I can then write them a letter, for example? Well, yeah, I could try to construct a formula to do that, and it might take me some time, or I can just pull up ChatGPT and I can ask it to write an Excel formula that extracts the first name from an email address where the structure is first name dot last name. This is obviously a scripted example, so we're making it a little bit easy, but I'll click send. And you can see here that when you're asking it to do things like write formulas or develop code, it's actually going to display that code snippet or that formula snippet in a code editor. So I can easily copy this. And what's really cool about this example is not only will it develop that script or that formula or that code, it's actually going to even provide you with an explanation, which is, for me, even more useful than just giving me the answer, because it's going to give me some instructions on how it got to that answer, so that if it's wrong or it doesn't work or I need to explain it to somebody else, I now have the resources I need to do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this here. And right off the bat, I can see that there's likely going to be an issue with this formula. So again, an example of where it's not always accurate. I told it that it could find the information it needed in cell B2, and its formula started in cell A1. So something that I was able to quickly catch. And I'm just going to go ahead and modify that reference here. And you can see here that it did exactly what I asked it to, notwithstanding that minor error, that I'm now able to just quickly parse out some text from a value in a cell in a spreadsheet, and I don't have to burn my cycles trying to figure out how to write this formula or get it to work. Now, I'll do one of the next two examples because they're somewhat similar. So, we could have asked it to write a formula to take the date of birth, someone's date of birth, and turn it into a numerical value to display their age. Pretty straightforward. What I'm going to do is I have this column here called renewal date. I'm going to ask it to write a formula to basically tell me which quarter of the year expressed as Q1, Q2, Q3, or Q4 this value falls in, so that if I'm planning my sales cycles, I know when I need to start reaching out or prospecting these customers. So I'm going to paste in a prompt here. And you can see here, pretty straightforward, write an Excel formula to determine which quarter of the year a date falls in based on the date value stored in cell, and I'll give it the reference. And in natural language, I'm just telling it I would like it to output the data in a specific way. So again, remember that specificity. I'll go ahead and click send. And again, you can see the instructions. So assuming the cell is in G2, this formula does the following thing by doing this. So it's also giving you sort of that context. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this one. And let's see if this one works. And the cell reference was wrong, but that was due to my prompt. So I'm going to change this to F2. And I think there's some spacing issues here, but you can see with a couple tweaks, it was able to take that value and then determine which quarter of the year it falls in and express the result in the way that is conducive to what I need it for. So that's it. ChatGPT, super powerful tool, great for brainstorming, ideation, content creation, analyzing data, analyzing information, and also helping you with these small little productivity tasks, whether developing code or writing formulas, etc. So Maureen and Suzanne, that kind of concludes my presentation session. So I'm guessing we can open it up for Q&A.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions that have been written into the chat. Suzanne, do you want to?
Thank you. Yep,
Yeah.
I'm unmuted. Thank you, Luigi. That was wonderful. It's a lot of, every time I listen to a webinar, I learn something different. Thank you, everybody that has joined this call. Some of our mentors are on here.
Yeah.
People that I know through the industry. I see Tom Arnone is here. I see Dr. Block is here. So people that we've known, please make use of our mentors. They have access to all of our webinars and information about SCORE. We're going to send the slides out to everyone. A lot of people ask that question. So,
but we have a number of questions in the chat. And I will also say, as a SCORE mentor, I have a number of SCORE clients, and all of us have been using ChatGPT since around December, January. So they're using them to write blogs, as Luigi mentioned. They're using them to write sales emails. They're using them to write newsletters. They're using them to write FAQs on their websites. So you're really only limited by what you can ask it. I myself, I'll use myself as an example. I was looking to get more protein in my diet. So I said, create a menu for me for the week that has more protein in it. So it gave me breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Then I went back and regenerated it. And I said, give me the recipes to this menu. It gave me all the recipes. Then I went back and regenerated it and said, give me a shopping list for all of this. And it gave me a shopping list. So it's like a task that you can build on and build on again. So you can like continue to fine tune each time. So as I said, there's so many uses for it. You're really only limited by your imagination, and it's very addicting. There, I've said it. Once you start going down the black hole, the rabbit hole, it's like you find out it's like 3 hours later and you're like, what happened? So anyway, as I said, there's a lot of questions in the chat we want to start hitting them so we can get to all of them. So,
Okay, so
Is the-
some people say, are asking, yes, all the slides will be given. And Luigi, your contact information is on the slides, right? And the links to get to you?
Yeah, I will put them there, and I've just pasted them in the chat as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And the list, someone asked about the list of grants for women business owners. I put that in the chat room. It's actually in an article on the SCORE NJ Facebook and LinkedIn groups. And I put that on this morning, so you can go to those groups. Please join those groups because we put all the statewide webinars there and in general information about SCORE. We ask that you don't promote your business, but we ask you to join the groups to really see the information. So many people from across the country, and we just want to remind everyone, the SCORE mentors from around the country can help anyone in any state. So whether you're in California or in Florida or Timbuktu, you can contact our SCORE mentors. Put in a zip code if you want someone local, put in the area of expertise, like for Maureen, you put in marketing, or put in the industry that you're looking for, hospitality or whatever, and then they'll come up with a selection of mentors. You don't have to restrict yourself because the SCORE mentors are adept at using Zoom, having calls, whatever. So
one question I saw on the thing had to do with privacy. And I know with Chat GPT, it's OpenAI. So, and Luigi, you can speak to this. I've told my clients that you don't want to be specific. You don't want to put EIN numbers in there, social security numbers, or actually the name of your company in there. You don't want to give a specific identifier. You can say, home security business. You can name what it is, but don't give specific information that could be easily identified, because this is an open forum and it's accessible to many people. Luigi, do you want to build on that?
Yeah, it's a great point. One of the things to consider, and it's kind of the working assumption that you should have when you put something in ChatGPT, is that anything that you put in there, especially on the free version, make the assumption that it could be viewed by somebody who works for OpenAI. So part of their ongoing support and training of this model means that from time to time, their trainers have to actually review the dialogue that's had. So yeah, to Maureen's point, you don't want to be putting any kind of PII, personally identifiable information, and you should always be working from the assumption that if you put it in there, it could be viewed by an actual human person. So
yeah.
And so
I also had a client that, like 2 days ago, they wanted to have and ChatGPT is great for this, more so than Bard, but for example, they wanted to get a list of all the home health care companies that are doing $2 million or more in revenue a year. And they were able to provide that easily. Then, of course, he said, well, how about if we try and get like the email addresses of the vice president or financial officers? ChatGPT would not give that because they're not going to disclose private information. So it would be an invasion of somebody's privacy to give their work email. So you can ask for the company, you can ask for a disclaimer in terms of give me $2 million in revenue or above, but you can't ask like specific things that would invade someone else's privacy, like personal phone numbers or something else like that, or personal email addresses.
Okay, so let's go back to the questions. Carla is asking, the information that GPT provides could be subject to copyright. Is that correct, Luigi?
Subject to copyright.
Laws, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't have the answer to that, but maybe I can follow up in the slides on that one. Yeah,
Okay.
the other thing would be to check, always review the terms of service, because terms of service for software will specify whether there's copyright.
Okay, and Paul is asking, people who get similar questions, do they get similar responses, specifically using the first example of finding a name for a business? Will it generate the same names to multiple people asking the same or similar questions?
Yeah, it's likely, right? Unless you're providing that contextual information that we saw in the settings, it's always just going to take the information that it has access to, that it's been trained on, and provide the most accurate response. So in the scenario of business AIMS, highly likely it could provide the same responses to two different people asking the same question.
Yep.
Yeah. So the place to, ask your SCORE mentor, but we've had people on that talk about, providing a name for your business. And actually we can ask the attorney, it'll be on the call next Thursday. But there's a registry that you can go to, a national registry and a statewide registry, to find out if a name of a business is already used, or you can look at ones that are similar.
Yep.
Okay. And then we have another question. Are the questions and answers send and received from ChatGPT private, confidential, public, or belongs to me or OpenAI? I think we've answered that, but go ahead, Luigi.
Yeah, it belongs to OpenAI, and it isn't public in the sense that there's obviously security protocols in place. Information's encrypted. It's behind your account, but the information belongs to OpenAI.
Yeah, and I think I answered that too, that it's OpenAI, but that you really have to check. And you talked about this at the beginning about it being 100% accurate. So can you expand on that a little bit? Because I know some people that have gone in and asked for, information about an author, and it kind of brings up information that isn't 100% accurate.
Yeah, I have not experienced it myself. I have read about that in literature. There's been articles and cases where it's provided incorrect information with respect to research. If you just Google ChatGPT false information, you're going to see a ton of the cases, because obviously those are the ones that hit the headlines. But always QA it. I think I've also heard, Suzanne, of a situation where it inaccurately attributed a book to an author as well. So,
Yep. And that's why it's important. It's a project starter. You have to be the editor of it. So
right.
you
really have to make it your own.
Go through and really look at it for accuracy.
Yeah. So if you're writing an article or using it for content, you need to kind of really make it your own and check that all the information is correct. So John is asking, if we ask the AI tool like ChatGPT for items for our business content, like product ideas or product description, who owns the generated content?
Yeah, there's a couple of responses there. I think GF Harris wrote an intellectual property attorney would be the best source of that trademark copyright. So yeah, I would agree. I would defer that if you do have concerns about copyright, seek legal counsel. That's probably your best bet. Yeah, the reality is people are using this to generate content that they are, for commercial purposes.
Yep.
So I'm sure that there is some use case where you can leverage this content, but if you are sincerely concerned about, mitigating any risk, then definitely kind of seek legal counsel. That is far beyond my subject matter expertise. So I'll defer the question.
Yeah.
Well, I had heard though, that if you're worried about your content and your responses and your questions that you asked the platform, that you could somehow have a setting within ChatGPT that says, take away my content or take away my answers or my questions.
Yes, yeah, there is an option to purge your account, and I forget what the data retention policies are. On the free version, it may not be short, like there may be a data retention period of up to a year, and don't quote me on that. But that is where the company is trying to really double down and monetize. On the paid version, data retention is every 30 days. So you get some additional assurances that your content is purged and is not retained indefinitely. And the same thing when using it in an enterprise context.
Yep.
And I don't know if Luigi, you know the answer to this question, but someone's talking about using a different language, using Spanish. It can be a tricky language depending on the country, the model, that there's languages around the world, that there are specific versions of the languages and nuances that should be emphasized. And it does make a difference and reflects on the company. So we should be careful about that. Erica Jones asked, is there a way to give ChatGPT access to multiple documents and create a manual with all these documents combined?
Yeah, it's a good question. So again, with the free version, you cannot upload or embed files. So that is available in the premium version, that you can simply attach documents and have it scour those documents and respond to prompts, saving you the copy and paste, overcoming sort of the limits, the input limit. In terms of combining it, the output in a document, that's not available. That feature is not part of ChatGPT. There are other tools, though, that provide some of that capability. So for that specific question, I'd encourage you to check out Canva if you've never used or heard of. Canva has similar AI-based content creation
Yeah.
where you can take qualitative content and ask it to actually produce a document using AI, and it can be really flashy and aesthetically pleasing. So and I'll just put the name in the chat as well if you've not heard that.
And the example that you used where you had this spreadsheet that you created and then added columns, that's just a matter of cutting and pasting it to bring it over into your computer, right? And to get
Exactly.
it.
Yeah, you can just take data in a spreadsheet and just literally copy and paste it. It's going to make the formatting look a little wonky like how you saw in the demo, but it will still be able to review and parse through that information.
Okay. And the premium version, do you know how much it is?
I think it's $20, $20 USD a month.
Okay.
$20 a month, yeah.
So Luke is asking if your PC has a decent GPU and CPU, you can run private GPT locally and feed your own documents and combine.
Okay,
You agree
that's
with
good to
that?
know. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, so thank you, Luke.
Okay. And then I was asking, and somebody else asked in the Q&A, is there a limit to the length of the prompts? I think you answered that, but
Yeah, the
what was the
character limit is 4,000 characters.
yeah, Luke is answering that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Justin is asking who has access to what you asked the chat and the answers it provides you.
Yeah, that again, anything you put in there could be reviewed by
Yeah.
OpenAI trainers or personnel.
And then additional people are asking again about Excel and Google spreadsheets. And
You
you've
can
already
cut and
answered that
paste an
question.
Excel spreadsheet and put it in the prompt and say, hey, give me the sales trending for blah, blah, and it'll do that for you. It'll analyze it. You can't put like in, a 20-page budget in there. Won't fit, obviously, from a character standpoint, but you can do a one-page analysis and cut and paste it in there and it'll do it. I've done it.
Yeah. So Michelle is asking, what methods do you use to validate pricing generated by the chat?
Yeah, I mean, the scenario around the pricing was kind of just for demonstration purposes. I mean, I always just kind of rely on market research. So, do your homework, do a competitive scan, try to understand, what competitors in your industry or your space are doing around pricing. That's probably a scenario where you would not want to just rely on the output of ChatGPT to help inform a pricing strategy.
But you may want
then-
to, for shits and giggles, go to Bard, which is another free AI tool, and and I've done this, ask the exact same question. And if you're looking for a price comparison, see what that says in comparison to what you got from ChatGPT. Is it vastly different? Because the Bard is really current as of today, whereas the ChatGPT is up to September 2021. So I always like to compare and contrast. That's me.
So that would make an impact on when you're asking for pricing too. So
Yeah.
the pricing would be information that's available from 2 years ago, not
Yep.
maybe not current information.
Correct.
And April is asking, where would you find a list of maybe sample prompts and good prompts to use when using the platform?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's ever since ChatGPT became public, you're starting to see an entire discipline emerge around. It's called prompt engineering. There's people selling courses on it. There's blogs being established. YouTube videos. So I'd encourage you to, if you want to look for a specific topic, type in your topic, prompt engineering 4, and you're likely to find some content out there that's going to give you some suggestions and advice on how to craft prompts for a specific purpose.
Yep.
Right. And so Bernie is commenting, I had asked ChatGPT to generate a newsletter on recent articles on consumer finance with web links. The platform made up fake articles and links. I know I need a paid version with add-on that scours the internet. Suggestion on good add-ons.
Yeah, and I saw that. I don't, so I apologize because somebody actually provided that response and I didn't get a chance to kind of show it. I have
Oh.
a tutorial on this.
Luke, that was Luke.
Yes, it was Luke. I'm going to
Okay.
steal Luke's thunder here for a second, and I won't go too far into this, but I'll share a link to a video that I have on this topic. So if you're looking for AI-based solutions that can crawl the web, Microsoft has its own version of ChatGPT called Bing Chat. You can access it on bing.com, but they've also integrated it in a web browser. So when you use Microsoft Edge browser, you're going to see this little Bing icon. Opening this brings up basically your AI assistant. So you can now kind of do the same thing, slightly less sophisticated than ChatGPT, but it covers that scenario where you want to find information from the web. So you'll find articles about interest rates, and it will be able to actually crawl and show suggestions. And what's really cool is with its responses, it will actually show you the citation. So you can quickly drill down into sources of information as well. So it kind of operates the same thing. And you can see here that in its response, it's going to kind of footnote and hyperlink out. And what's cool about this is that you can also use this or invoke it, if you will, from an article. So if I'm on a page and I don't want that ad, but I want to look up this particular text, I can basically take this, and I must have the feature disabled. Yeah, I probably don't have it enabled because I turned it off, but it allows for on-page context. So if I select this, it will actually allow me to just quickly paste this over into the chat, and it's going to start to show me some suggestions as well. And you also have the compose feature, so you can actually get specific access capabilities around writing content, just like we saw in ChatGPT in its own pane, and then insights as well. So just by being on a page, if I click on the Insights tab, it's going to give me some key phrases, key points. It might even summarize the article for you. So again, just another one of the 100 tools that are emerging ever since ChatGPT became public.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do we lose you, Suzanne? Probably. Okay. Let's see if there are any other questions here that Luke hasn't answered. All right. There you go. Bing Chat is in Edge. Yeah. And when you're looking at those other alternatives like Bard, Bing Chat, those are all free. The way they're making their money is obviously if they're bringing you to Bing, their browser, they're selling advertising. So they want to put some extra bells and whistles like Bing Chat, so that you'll come there and use their browser so that they can make buku dollars in advertising. So that's how they're getting paid. That's their business model, just as an FYI. Let's see. Any other questions? Intellectual best source, you already said that. Well, it looks like, I think that's probably it. Any other questions, anybody? Speak now. Of course, like, you are welcome. But, there's so much going on with, AI, ChatGPT, and all this other stuff. And SCORE is doing a boatload of webinars with regard to it. So you can always, find content. You can always find learnings. And what you should do is, don't just sit back on your laurel in terms of, gee, I think I know enough. You always want to learn more. And like for me, I started using ChatGPT in like December and started getting addicted to it. But I always kept finding webinars and things to learn more and different applications so I could bring those learnings to my clients, my SCORE clients, because it's like they don't have money to hire somebody to do social media posts or write content for their website or write emails. You know, they know their business. They don't know the other pieces of it. And ChatGPT, as well as a lot of the other AI tools, are great tools to save you money instead of having to hire somebody to do that for you. You can do it yourself, and it'll at least start the project for you. You don't have to be an expert. And I've been doing marketing for 38 years, and ChatGPT and other AI thing is a way of demystifying social media marketing, creating a marketing campaign, creating a marketing calendar for the year. You're only limited by what you don't ask. So, Luigi, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, I just wanted to thank you and Suzanne for the opportunity to present, and I wanted to thank everybody who attended. I hope you found this session helpful, and I hope you walk away with at least one piece of information about how to leverage ChatGPT to be more effective and productive. So thank you.
And just as a final note for everybody that's still hanging out here, you will get copies of the slides, and the webinar will be posted probably on SCORE and on Luigi's website, YouTube channel. So there are going to be a number of places where you can see it again. So if you didn't take notes or you want to view something again and get more clarity on it, you'll be able to do that.
Sorry, everyone. I hope the chat didn't, the whole webinar didn't end. My computer overheated, so it locked me out and I'm back in. Did everybody, it looks like everybody was able to stay on.
Yep,
Maureen, I sent you a text and asked you to go through the questions.
I did. And
Thank
we
you.
went through everything. So it's all peace and love.
Okay. Thank you so much. Luigi, I'm
All
sorry
right.
for that.
No worries. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care.
Thank
All
you,
right.
everybody, for joining us.
Bye.
Check our SCORE New Jersey groups. And thank you, Luigi, again for a wonderful presentation and for all your information. And you'll get Luigi's information on the slides. Thank you again, everyone. Have a good rest of the day and a good weekend.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
Luigi. Sweet.